This is Remy Grillo, director of The Resurrection of Charles Manson, and this is Flicked Up. The Resurrection of Charles Manson follows a Manson family trying to resurrect Charles Manson's soul through human sacrifice.
You are very important. Do you know that? Yeah? Hey.
Peace, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike P. Flicked Up. We are here, the one and only Remy Grillo.
Thank you for having me.
How you doing, brother?
Doing well. I'm excited to do this. Grew up in Chelsea for the most part. My mom and dad were divorced, but they both lived out here, so kind of just bounced around all of Manhattan, hit the whole public school circuit. Went to Buffalo for 2 years for college.
Okay. A lot of Italians in Buffalo.
Yeah, a lot of snow too. A lot of snow, and then got halfway through and was like, I don't want to be here.
Okay.
And I've always wanted to do film, so I made a plan. I found a job and booked a one-way ticket to LA, and that was 8 years ago.
Awesome.
And I've been doing that ever since. Yeah.
You did the classic move.
I did it, yeah. I just got myself out there. You know, you throw yourself in the deep end. It's like you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like living out here too. It's like you always just figure it out no matter what.
100%.
And that was a big part of it. And it was a lot of work, and then school, and then this job kind of came up in a really random way.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
man. It really is, and you know that, and that's the reason we connected too, because love of film, love of the entertainment industry, love of creation, love of production. What has your love of film meant to you to get you to that point? Was it always like when you made the move to LA? Your family's in the industry, but was it always just like, yo, I'm gonna get out there and do this, or was it like, yo, I just love being involved? And
Yeah, what's interesting is obviously, my dad's an actor. He's done an incredible job for himself. But growing up, he was just a working actor. Like, he didn't hit fame or success really until I was going to college. So my whole life, I saw him as he had this dream, but he just grinded the fuck out of it, So when I made the decision that I wanted to do film and I wanted to be, I knew I never want to be an actor. That just wasn't my thing.
So what were some of the things before you got an opportunity to create your own film? What were some of the other experiences you had?
I was always PAing. I was always a production assistant. I mean, I did that like between summers and college. I was PAing.
Awesome.
It was on my dad's show, but and it's funny because when you show up and they knew that I was his kid, and they were like, he's not gonna work. So I'm like, now I gotta work twice as hard.
Of course,
and
they're gonna always look to try to.
So it was a lot of that, but you earn respect, and like that's the coolest thing is like when you earn someone's respect who you're not asking for necessarily, but they validate you. I grew up boxing. That's kind of like that's the other thing that I've always loved, and my favorite thing is getting validation from other fighters of like, you work hard. You're not just doing this because it looks cool. But it's like I love it, and I just think in another life maybe I've been a fighter, but
your dad boxes too. I know I
boxes,
see that all the time.
yes, and we do it together sometimes. But like that discipline is what I think has helped me be successful too.
And it's a very good comparison to the production industry.
Entertainment beats you the fuck up. It beats you up, but
and you gotta love to do it, because if you don't love boxing, you're not gonna step in that ring.
If you don't love it, like if you don't like, when you go to film school, you start with like 30, 40 kids. By the end of it, they go, you'll be with 10. You go, that seems a little extreme. But I started with 30 kids and I ended with 6 because it's late nights, no weekends.
Yeah.
And you gotta just work. You're working either overnight or early morning. You're starting at 4:30 or you're starting at 9 p.m. But either way, it's 12 to 16 hours of grinding it out.
That's it. And we love it, but
it is my favorite thing in the whole world. But it hurts.
So, how did you get this opportunity? How did it arise? Give us the inception of is it The Resurrection? Right?
Yeah, it's The Resurrection.
The Resurrection of Charles Manson.
The Resurrection of Charles Manson. Yeah. So, long story short, I worked at Blumhouse for a summer doing script coverage. I just read 80
For those who don't know.
So Blumhouse. So I went to Blumhouse in 2017. Blumhouse did Get Out and Split and The Purge and Paranormal Activity. But when I worked there, it was the Get Out Split summer. So it was a huge
summer.
Big summer. It blew them up. So there were a lot of scripts. So I read, I think, like 100 scripts in 8 weeks.
Very cool.
Which was the best job, the best education, because you read a lot of shitty scripts, but then when you read good ones, you go, oh, this is what sets it apart. So I did that. Flash forward to 2021. I'm in the gym in LA. It's called Churchill Boxing. And I meet this guy, Josh, and he's talking. He's like, I've got this script, and I would love to just get your notes on it. Because I know you did Blumhouse, that's the vibe we're going for. So
sure. Very cool.
And it was rough when I first got it, but for the next like 4 or 5 months, I would give him notes. He would send me a script back. I'd give him notes. They had a director, like they were making this movie.
Okay.
I was like, I'm gonna get on and just be like a production assistant or a grip or whatever I can do to like shimmy my way into this movie. Sure. I'm gonna do. Cut to December comes, and he calls me. He goes, "Hey, our director just dropped out," and he goes, "And you've been on this movie for 6 months now. Would you want to throw your hat in the race to direct?" And I go, "Yeah." So I put a pitch deck together. I send it out, a whole visual deck and how I would do it, and like really just grinded it out. And he called me one day. He's like, "Hey, let's go talk by my house in El Segundo," which is like an hour and a half drive.
Sure.
For me.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Yep, sure." We talked for like 4 hours just walking around with his dog, and I drove home. He's like, "I got to talk to a couple more people, but I would love for you to do this." I got home, he called me, and I had the job.
Just give us your early impressions when you first started, first couple of days on set.
Yeah, I mean, even going into prep, it was, you go into film school, you have a 6-page script, and like, anywhere from like 500 to like $1,000, depending on how much somebody wants to spend. I had a 90-page script and $650,000 that was on my back. So that right there was like a crazy responsibility. My dad jumped in. He was part of that.
We gotta go back though.
Yeah.
How does your Frank Grillo?
Yeah.
Big actor, big dude. You know what I mean?
Told me, he goes, "I should do this." I go, "If you should read the script first, because I don't think this is a great career move."
For those who haven't seen it, you gotta watch. It's a wacky fucking movie, man, and it's right there in Blumhouse. I mean, that's the vibe.
It's kooky, it's about Charles Manson, but it's not. He's not in it. Like it's a. I call it like a what if. The Manson cult was still alive, and they're trying to resurrect him through human sacrifice. It's fun. It's kooky.
It's extremely entertaining. It's scary as shit at certain points. So your father, you tell him about it?
So we're sitting at the, he knew that he'd been watching me work on this, on the pitch deck, and he had been helping me, and so he'd been watching me work, and we're sitting down, and I came home, and he hadn't been home yet, and I had gotten the call that I got, and I'm kind of just sitting there like, oh, like, whoa, like things are, like I just graduated school last year, I'm 25, like this is, if it goes, this changes a lot, or it just gets me going.
Sure.
So he's sitting down and we're talking, and I just go, I got the job. He went, what? I go, I got the movie. He goes, and then it was like the whole thing. He goes, I gotta be in it. And I was like, you sure? I was like, sleep on it. But he
knew about the role.
He knew that there was this cool cult leader role, and it wasn't something where he had to be working every day. It was a quick in and out role. But he was like, it's a fun, like it's the first one. How is he not gonna do it? Also, it is one of those things where, like, it does help in other departments of, in sales, and now you've got a name, with any movie, if you can get a name, you can get almost anything that you want.
You get a lot of help, but it also helps that he's a great actor.
Yes, but then now it's not, okay, I'm making my first movie. It's now I'm making my first movie, and he's in it, and he's at a big point in his career. Like, you can't fuck up.
So when you're on set, what is that experience like?
He was the easiest part of doing this whole movie. He wanted me, he let me do my thing, and he's like, I'll either let you succeed or I'll let you fail, right? And if I need to jump in, I'll jump in, right? Sure. And it was very much like a peer.
Yeah.
I obviously didn't really need to direct him because he knows what he's doing.
Sure.
But it was a lot of like creative back and forth.
Yeah.
We had one hiccup that it was, day 8. And I am exhausted, and we had a real big flare up with some of the other cast and crew, and I texted him. I was like, I need help.
Okay.
And he was like, okay. And then he was the big angry gorilla on set. It was a 4-hour explosion, but then he was like, all right, let's get back to work.
That's it.
And I was like, I needed that.
That's it.
Like,
Like, he's not just a great actor. He's also a strong Italian guy from New York.
You don't want,
regardless of his
you don't mess
acting resume.
Yeah, he's the first to to like, I'll destroy it if I have to, like,
That's awesome, man. No,
but it was really cool because I've obviously always, like, I've gotten to visit set and I worked as a PA, so I've seen him work.
Sure.
But I've never gotten to work with him. And that's a whole different experience.
And and outside of anything, father and son, I have a 3-year-old son. The idea of possibly working with him in production one day is like, that's
great.
like incredible,
and
man. That's
I'm
his
his
dream.
oldest, so like that's the fun.
For him, that's amazing,
Yeah.
and no one, and of course he's gonna do what he can to give you that. I'm gonna tell you what's bugged out. I'm watching the movie and I'm like, yo, he kind of fucking looks like Charles Manson. Which I never would like. I'm like, yo, my man Frank Grillo is a.
Everyone thought he was gonna be, because he was growing his beard out to kind of look like
there
it.
was something going on there.
You look at Manson, he's got like the raccoon, kind of like when you light. Sorry, I don't want to light.
Yeah,
when you light him, you see the shadow.
Yeah.
And my dad has that same thing where, like, you put a light over his head.
And the jaw, he had a boniness going to it that he didn't have.
Yeah. I'll send you one of the pictures they sent me early on in the promo. I don't know if it ever got sent out, but it's half of each of their faces melded into one, and it's kind of creepy how similar their features are. But yeah, it was kooky.
And so story-wise, you said, did it pretty much always? Did it keep form? Did it?
Oh, it changed. I mean, they say there's the 3 movies: is the one you write, the one you shoot, and the one you edit.
Of course.
I mean, the movie that we locked in that everyone else saw versus the first script that I got, even the script that was locked, 2 different movies.
Okay.
And that just happens because things don't always work, or you don't need it.
Of course.
Your job is to put, especially like this, it's always push the story forward and not waste time. And this is a quick movie, and you don't want to waste any seconds. You want to keep the audio. If the second someone goes to look down at their phone, you're out. You've lost.
That's it.
So there's a lot of cutting and changing and rewriting and restructuring, which doesn't always make everybody happy.
Yeah.
But you gotta, that's my job isn't to make the writers or the producers. I mean, the producers, yes, but the writers happy. My job is to make a great movie.
That's it.
And when you're dealing with, I had my dad, but I had another actress, Jamie King. And
so I was gonna say, talked about, outside of your father, working with the other actors. Who are they? And what was that
Josh Plassey is the main actor, the main male lead. Mitch.
Yeah.
He wrote it, so he was one of the writers.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Catherine Hughes, she plays our main character.
I've seen her.
Tiana. She's been in a bunch of stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, she's been around. She's great.
Really
She
great.
jumped in 5 days notice
Wow.
because our other actress had dropped out. So she jumped in and was just like, good to go. Will Peltz is in it. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
He was great. He was kind of like a good kooky side character. And then Jamie King is in it.
Yeah.
And, she came in for a couple days. I think that's pretty much everyone involved.
Yeah, man.
It was a tight cast. I mean, for the whole movie, it was pretty much me, Josh, and Catherine, because it's the 2 of them in this house, which was really nice. Because for the first week, it was just us building our relationship and figuring out what we were doing.
We were talking about. So you go through the production, and then how is it on to wrap it up? To get when did you get to the point where you guys felt good and you knew you were getting to that?
When it came out, no, we had a. I mean, I had a treacherous editing process. And the edit probably took, I think it took me like 9 months to edit the movie.
Crazy.
Because we had one editor and it just wasn't clicking. We were missing so much from the COVID shutdown. We lost 3 days. So we had a couple of like pickup days, reshoot days.
Got it.
The first editor, we had our thing, but it wasn't really clicking. And then, I showed them. I was like, and I also, with a movie like this, you have like 12 producers, right? You have a lot of producers, and all they want to do is give notes. So I would constantly give it a cut, and I'd be like 40 pages of notes. Yeah. And I'd be like, who's most important here? Because I don't want to listen to all of you. But I was like, I need to get all the producers off. I need to get, everyone who's not in the top 3 off of the edit.
Yeah.
And I need to get a new editor. So I showed it to my dad. I had a cut of the movie, and I was like, Dad, you gotta watch this. Like, it's not great, but we'll figure it out.
Sure.
So he goes, all right, cool. I'll invite my buddy Gavin O'Connor, who's a great director and writer. He did
Gavin
Warrior.
O'Connor.
He did The Accountant. Who's someone I look up to. Like, I've known him, but I'm like, that's who I aspire to, like, be. He's like, Gavin O'Connor. And immediately I'm like, God,
damn.
Daddy, so I'm like, we have one more person who's not in film, so at least they can, fine, I'm sure our buddy comes over. We put the movie on. They both had yellow legal pads, and for the whole 88 minutes, all I hear is. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna be terrible. The movie ends, and I'm sweating, and I look at Gavin, and he goes, the thing about failure. And I was just like, oh. So and then, but I mean, like it needed to happen.
Process,
You know, it needed to happen. I got a new editor. We got everyone who didn't need to be on the edit off, and we got to make the movie the way that it was intended to be edited, and it was great. And by the time it got to that point where we were doing sound, and I got to watch it on the big screen like twice, I was like, cool. I never have to watch this movie again. I did it. I think I watched it once with my mom because she wanted to watch it with me.
It's rough when you gotta go back to it.
It hurts because it's like, you love something so much, and all you want to do is make it the best, right? And things come up and they get in the way, and you're like, okay, I remember on this day this went wrong, or I didn't realize I could hear the ADR lines.
Sure.
And like, I can't watch this without knowing everything that went wrong. But it also was one of the greatest experiences in my life, and it put me on a course that I from the time I was 9 was what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And it hit much earlier. I was ready to go throughout my whole 20s just doing grinding, being PA or camera work and at 25 I got to make my first movie. So truly blessed, and through that I now have this fun little, not power, but like I have met people in the industry, and I've met people who now want to, like you and I, connected because we wanted to talk, or I've met producers or writers who want to make stuff, and it's like, great, now I can start to bring in people who I trust and want to start building momentum. That team, right? Everyone's like, I want to have like the entourage lifestyle, right? Where it's like, I want my boys just like at a dope house with people who I trust. And that's what I'm working towards now.
It's amazing. So give us a scene that, maybe it was a crazy experience or that people wouldn't know. I know like there's some wild stuff that goes on in there.
The big climax of the movie takes place at night, and there's this whole fire sequence. You're not really supposed to light anything on fire because the desert's just full of kindle. And the last thing I want to do is burn Josh Richard to the ground. So you have to have a fire team come in, and they do it in a certain way so that it's a flame, but it's with a gel, so it's all controlled. So we're shooting this scene, and we were shooting in the winter in California, so the sun didn't go down until like I think 8 or 9. It takes a while. So it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I've dealt with we had a whole big drama thing in the beginning of the night. It's 2:30 in the morning. We're shooting. There's fire everywhere. It's 35 degrees. All of a sudden, a 40-mile-an-hour gust of wind comes and puts all of the fire out. And I look at the fire safety officer and I go, how do I fix this? And he goes, you go home.
When that answer comes
and in my head, I'm like, this is it. I think I'm done. Like, I don't know if I can push, because we only had 1 day of fire, and we only got like half the scene done. He goes, don't worry, I run the permits. I'll give you guys like a free permit for tomorrow, but you gotta get it all done tomorrow. I was like, yeah, I plan on it.
That's a good one.
So that was a hard one.
Yeah.
The movie didn't have a great opening scene originally. For anyone who's seen the movie, there's this great little montage of Charles Manson.
Yeah,
there's this cool opening scene. Dope. That was fun and hard. I'll talk about that too. There's this cool opening scene, and then we go into an apartment, and it didn't flow because we would go from this montage to this audition scene, and it didn't feel great. So we went up to Santa Clarita for the day, and we reshot the opening, which is this character. Ben, and he's getting chased, and my dad has a pickup truck.
Scene, man.
He drives through a pickup truck, and he's got guys in the back. It ended up becoming my favorite scene of the whole movie.
That was a scene I was gonna talk to you
about. It was
the
perfect way. You go from this montage where you're hearing Manson talk, and it overlaps with them chasing him and driving, and it brought the whole thing together. When we got into the edit room, we put it in there, we're like, we have a movie now.
Yeah.
Like it really brought the whole thing together, and it was never part of the script. It was never planned, but it didn't happen until the edit, and we're like, we need something to start this movie.
Example.
And I thought it was the perfect way to start that movie.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But the montage we had about 4 different versions of because you're dealing with rights, and rights get expensive. So we had at one point we didn't have that, and I was like, that would be a real bummer because I feel like. Everyone knows Charles Manson, but I think it's a good just kicker to be like, here's who we're dealing with.
Sure. 100%. Very smart idea.
Yeah, but that was probably my favorite. That opening scene is probably my favorite part.
No,
of the
that's
movie.
really. I mean, it really set the tone.
Yeah.
When I was watching, I was like, okay, now we know you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and you get up here, and then you can go down to the apartment, and it's right here, and you're okay because now you have the setup to start. There's a scene with Will Peltz. He's got the dyed blonde hair, and he's sitting at the pool. And
The
he's got
brother.
The brother, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's sitting with the cut tongue.
Yeah.
And that was a scene I'd always wanted to shoot. Wasn't in script either. And on our COVID day, he was the only actor that wasn't. It was his first day when we got shut down for COVID.
So he was clear.
So he was clear. So I was like, I've got this sick idea for a scene. So we were like in this pool, and you pull back, and he's got the tongue, and he's dancing, he's smoking a cigarette.
I like that.
We had Kokomo by the Beach Boys playing originally, but
Okay.
obviously.
It was good music though. So how does the music work out?
So I got put in touch with a young composer, Taryn Mitchell, and he actually works at Hans Zimmer's company. So he was kind of on the up and up. What's great about those companies is you have all these young guys who they don't really do a lot on their own, so they're looking to just kind of get out. So he was super talented, and he did that. But then we got not all of Charles Manson. We got a handful of Charles Manson's original music. And for those who don't know, all Manson wanted to do when he first got out to LA was be a musician, and he was friends with Doug Wilson and the Beach Boys. And that was it. So he's got an album that's out there, and from the start was like, I want to use the music.
I mean, that adds an incredible dimension to it. I was listening to it like this. It sounds like
there's 4 or 5 exactly like that.
Bugged out Willie Nelson.
There's 4 or 5 moments in the movie where we have Manson.
And how's the process of getting Charles Manson music?
Really hard because obviously
from a label or
so his music was done under the Beach Boys label.
Oh, that's nuts.
Because he recorded it in their house, in Laurel Canyon in LA. Obviously, he doesn't have the rights because he was a convicted felon. But you want to make sure that no one in his estate is getting the money and then doing it wrongfully. So we had our producers look into it, and I think it was his grandson who had the rights but had denounced his name, wasn't a Manson anymore, was using all the proceeds I think to donate. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. That's what I was told.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So it was a while. They were like, you can only get. First they were like, you can only have 1 song, and I was like, I've told you guys since day one I wanted 4, and they were like, well, we can't have the money, and this is where you go, find it, and call me when we got it. And then I got the call and they're like, we got it. I was like, sick, nice. We end the last song of the movie is one of Charles Manson's songs, and it's creepy. Yeah, it's bizarre.
No, those definitely set the tone. And then, so now the process of it's finished, the film's out. Where can people see the film? How do people?
Yeah, the film is out. I think to rent or buy on Apple and Amazon, any kind of the video on demand streamers. But I think it's on Tubi. For free. Yeah. Which is great. Tubi picked it up, and that was awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So is the future? I know we were talking about it a little bit, but is it getting into another film project right away? Is it doing some other stuff? I mean, are you open to whatever?
I'm open. Coming along? I say I will do whatever job comes my way. Right now, I'm working on building up, a production company and working up with a team and a partner, and we're just taking scripts. And my goal is to produce and direct a film next, but eventually to just produce and whatever. If someone's got a script, send it to me.
Just be a pipeline of.
And I'm, try and build up that kind of Blumhouse, the original Blumhouse method. There's the sub $5 million movies, genre based, if you can.
But high quality. High impact.
Exactly, but work with the younger. I know that's what I am. I'm the younger generation, the next generation. So work with them and start building that up.
I mean, have you always been a fan of horror?
I was always big into action movies. I grew up on all Scorsese movies. Goodfellas is my all-time favorite movie. The Godfather, all that stuff. Yeah. So it's that's the movies I grew up on. But when this movie came about, what I really liked about it was about Charles Manson, but it wasn't. It wasn't like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or which obviously is a great movie, but you have the overwhelming, the presence of Charles Manson. Yeah, and he's in it, and you're there, and that's the time. He's not in it, but he's just as much a character in it as anyone else is. And I thought, if you do it right and you get funky with it, you don't take it shouldn't be taken too seriously, because it's kooky. Mm-hmm. It's about people trying to resurrect Charles Manson from the dead. It's weird.
Did you get pushback from any, protests, anything of that nature? Because his name, as far long ago as it was and all of that, his name still kind of stirs up.
I will tell you,
shit.
I got some weird messages on Instagram, or people, got a hold of my email, and you get some weird.
Yeah. When it comes to him, it's like
there's the people who are like, how dare you? It's such a, it's like the whole, like even with like what happened with Dahmer, like how dare you? It's such a real thing. And then there's people who are like, you better not do anything in Charlie's name wrong, or else we'll come for you. I'm like, I'm sorry.
That was wild.
I'm like he's not actually in the movie, but
But
yeah. So you get people who are like, he's still a huge part of pop culture.
It's definitely
and that was interesting to get those messages and be like, great, this is awesome.
Good press. Any press is good press. Any attention is good attention.
Any psycho Manson follower, I respect. But
again, a major thread of Hollywood history, without a doubt.
And it's interesting. Like I'm a huge music guy, and I've always been obsessed with the Laurel Canyon era of music, where you have arguably some of the best of like that generation of artists. The Valley,
what I mean?
But they were all up and coming, but also just together. Like it was an open door policy of Laurel Canyon, where you'd have the Beach Boys with Mama and Papas, and Jim Morrison would show up. Like it made no sense. But when Charles Manson happened, when he killed Sharon Tate, that all died. And they were like, doors locked, let's get security, no one come in unless you call me ahead of time.
Sure.
And you're like, that's
end of an era.
End of an era. He destroyed an era, which is crazy for the guy who just wanted to be a part of music.
Yeah, I mean, his everything around him is crazy, and it's everlasting.
Yeah.
And now you're a big part of it.
I'm part of it. Awesome. I'm part of the Manson family, I guess.
No, man, you did you made a staple. You made a moment in time that kind of represents the future of what the pop culture, what was happening that time back then.
It's like, what if it was kind of cool to be like, what if they were still around and active?
I mean, something like that happening is not that far off. That shit might be going on, especially out there, the valley. You
go to the desert. There's some weird people in the desert. I mean, bizarre people.
100%.
Especially Yucca Valley where we were, because like you have Joshua Tree, which is like really beautiful, and it's obviously a big park and it's super peaceful. And then you have Palm Springs, which is like LA in the desert, but then you have Yucca Valley, which is right in between, and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like there's an Applebee's that was open past 8:30, and that was about it. Like an Applebee's in a really great barbecue spot. That's it.
And a lot of good twists and turns. We're not gonna give them away, but
that was fun too. To
watch,
like oh, this would be cool to like to film moments that you hope were jump scares or scary moments. There's a moment where our main characters are like in the bedroom and you pan up and there's the silhouette in the window, and you're like, that'll be fun. This will be cool.
And a lot of classic vibes, as you're paying homage. I felt I felt Grindhouse in there. I felt a lot of those 70s. I felt a lot, and that's the era.
That was
80s.
Yeah. And that was the goal. We were like, let's try and shoot this as if it were on film. But it's not, honestly.
Yeah.
And give it that grit and that kind of grime and work with it. That house that we shot in, that's a real house in the desert. We found it on Airbnb. It was these two New Zealand artists who had bought this house, and they renovated it and made it look very 70s.
That's cool.
And the floors were all bowling alley floors, because a bowling alley had closed, and they just there was a bowling alley like on the property. It was wild.
You mentioned it before, some of your favorite flicks. I'd love to talk to you about. So talk about some of your favorite movies, man, and how they inspire you still to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think of like my favorite movies and like movies that were important to me, like as an artist, and jump-starting my desire to actually build a career. I mean, my favorite movies, I'll always watch Goodfellas.
What is it about Goodfellas that really?
It's just that time of that era of filmmaking, like that 70s, Pesci, De Niro, Ray Liotta, all those guys. You're like, those movies are done. You can't unfortunately make those again. Like those actors don't exist. But there's just something about them, and maybe it is a culture thing where like when it's Goodfellas and they're sitting down, and I think it's Joe Pesci's mom, and they're having dinner and she's talking. She's like, "Why don't you have a girlfriend?" And like, I've had those.
Which that was Scorsese's real mom.
Yeah, which I love. Like that's like my grandma, or it's like
100%.
I don't know if you've seen the show yet, but have you seen the show The Bear?
Yeah, you kind of look like the homie from the
I had long hair before he came out here, and I was like,
get that
every
all the
night I would
time.
get it. But in the new season, have you seen the new season?
I didn't see the new season
So
yet.
there's a new season, and Jamie Lee Curtis plays his mom, and it's the Seven Fishes. It's
Oh, of
Christmas
course,
Eve.
that's it, man. Forget
And
about
everyone was like, "Go watch it. It's a great episode." It stressed me out because I'm like, I've been at that dinner before, and I don't enjoy watching this. At some point she goes, "No one's gonna miss me when I'm dead." And I go, "I've heard that."
A lot of
At
that.
every Sunday dinner, my grandma has said that. No one's gonna miss me when I'm dead. Watch.
That's hilarious.
But
It's
good-
legendary
yeah.
stuff.
I watched Hurt Locker when I was little, and that was the first time I started. I remember writing, like scripts. I remember I saw
Catherine Bigelow.
Catherine Bigelow, Jeremy Renner, Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
Who it's funny because those then ended up becoming people that I got to be around. You know, my dad, Anthony Mackie's become like a really close friend of my dad's, and I've got to spend some time with him.
That's because your father
Was in Marvel, and he spent. But a cool story is like, so Hurt Locker was one of those movies that like changed my life. I was like, I want to make scripts. I want to be in film, right?
it is a very
There was something about it
There
that
is.
it was just.
Yeah.
It was the first time I think I'd really seen like a raw version of war.
real close depiction,
Real
but it's
close,
still very
and
artistic.
emotional
But
and
it's
artistic.
raw though.
But there was something about it that just got me. So I was always obsessed with it. Cut to it's like, I don't know, 5-6 years later, and my dad's shooting Civil War. So he was in Captain America Civil War, and we're in Atlanta, and it's such a name drop story, which I always hate. To
No, this is what
But, you know,
you lived it. You
I
got to
know.
tell it. It's not like you
and I don't reason I tell it because it was such a cool moment for me that I never talked about.
Sure.
Um,
So you're in Atlanta. They're shooting.
So they're shooting Atlanta, and they're, my dad's like, they go to, I think it was like Chris Evans' apartment, and they're all sitting there, and Mackie's there, and my dad's there, and they're talking, and I was like 16, I'm like, cool, like I'm drinking a beer with these guys, right? And all of a sudden, Renner shows up, and it was one of those weird, surreal moments where I'm sitting on the deck, I'm drinking a beer, my dad's like playing a cool supervillain in this movie.
Pretty cool.
Captain America right here. But besides that, I've got Mackie and Renner in front of me. I'm like, these guys have no idea the relevance that they have from the start of me wanting to make movies. And I never said, like, I just kept it to
From Hurt
myself.
Locker.
From Hurt Locker. I was like,
yeah.
I remember watching that movie and,
And
be
look
like,
how it
I
manifested.
wanted to do like something with those kinds of actor or with those guys. And I was sitting there, I was like, I gotta go. Like, I'm not gonna tell anyone this because it's just gonna be a
That's dope.
moment for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
cool.
remember being like, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, man. And you know what's funny? You said your father, and then you said that your father though is a kind of he kind of carries a little bit of the tradition of like the Goodfella actors though.
He does.
And I think he can do something in that world. I mean, he's done stuff in that world as well, of course, but
He does. He's still like, carries that essence. Like,
Yeah,
that is
he
our
does.
family,
Yeah.
and him, and I think Bobby Cannavale.
There's a couple.
They're great.
There's definitely a couple.
But
There's a
he-
handful.
yeah.
But like you said, that real era, it's thin.
It's that emotional tough guy
thin.
where it's like, I'll kill you if I have to, but also
But
come
I
here and
can
give me a
do-
kiss. And like, that's a very confusing childhood to have. When you're terrified of the person in front of you, but also they'll give you the biggest hug like 3 seconds later.
Full of love. Yeah, that is an Italian upbringing.
It is, and but it's been fun. It's been fun now. We've very much just become peers and
Sure.
buddies.
Well, like you said, he got into megastardom late.
Yeah,
You know what I
he
mean?
did, and so I'm obviously I'm 26 and I'm a full grown adult. I'm making my
You're
way to
on
being
your
an
way there,
adult, and
yeah.
he's doing his thing, but like we can have those conversations as like two guys who have both had uncomfortable dates or like awkward moments. And
Sure.
it's fun.
Now, what does your mother say when she sees Resurrection of Charles Manson with your
she's-
father? How does all that work in her mind?
She loves it. She came out to stay with him when we were shooting for a week. She just thinks it's the coolest thing, because she's Italian mom, and all she wants is that her boys are okay.
Yeah.
I mean, every day you okay? I'm fine, mom. You sure you're okay? You would tell me. I go, I probably wouldn't, but I'm okay. So she came out, and her and my dad are very close. They were high school sweethearts, and
Sure.
then obviously got divorced, but they're still very good friends.
That's good.
So she came out, she stayed with me for like a week, and then she knew he was coming, so she extended her flight for a couple days.
Nice.
It was funny because I'm standing on set and like I'm looking to find my dad, and he's sitting in the corner talking to my mom. Like, it was such a surreal moment. Yeah. So she's just, she's the biggest.
Yeah.
She's my biggest supporter, and tells everybody everything, and it's great.
It's amazing, man. That's amazing. Well, without a doubt, I hope for your next project, you
Yes.
bring us on set.
I would love that.
We do a little
This would be awesome.
behind the
Yeah.
sines.
For sure.
My man, Remy
Thank you so
Grillo.
much. I really appreciate you having me on.
Awesome, man.